Hi guys, it's Stephanie Falciano here with Long Island Hustlers. Julia is off rehearsing for her amazing show. Behind me, you can see one of our guests. That's John Gunther, and he is a financial expert. He owns a finance company, and he's going to tell us all about it. He's also a fitness guru and trained for MMA fighting. So we're going to hear all about that today. Oh, we're on. We are here in the same place.
We are together.
What is happening? All right, I am so excited. That is John and Alona. Woohoo! Let's see a trick. Come on, let's see it. Let's see it. We want to see a trick, yeah. Anything. We will take a look at Alona and John doing who knows what for us, and then he's going to come over here and tell us about fitness and finance. We are at Dance With Us, and this is Sundays at Dance With Us. We have a lot going on behind the curtain, like in The Wizard of Oz. And we are practicing for showcases all the time. Woohoo! I love that exit. All right. Woohoo! Good job. All right. Well, when you're ready, come around and talk to us about stuff. How to get rich. Yeah, we want to know how to get rich. I'm going to jump over here to this taller chair. Yeah, so if there is anything out there that you guys want to hear about, please feel free to message us and take this opportunity to like and subscribe to our channel. Keone Productions is amazing, and he's always bringing new content out for everybody. It's just, he is super entertaining too. If you guys have not watched him yet, you got to watch him. Yeah, so John is going to come and tell us about his company. He's going to tell us about, I don't know, what do you guys want to know? What is an NFT? A penny stock? When to sell, when not to? Should we even be involved in this right now? Come on, join us. Here, you can actually come over here. Come on here. You're going to sit in the shorter chair because you are really tall. So I'm going to pretend that I'm tall like you.
Howdy.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Long Island Hustlers.
Thank you very much.
So
Honored to be on here.
Yeah, so tell our audience, first of all, introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Okay. So my name
First of all, talk about those muscles that you got there. Yeah.
My name is John Gunther. I guess the muscles came before anything else. I started going to school for personal training when I was in high school. I studied exercise science and nutrition in college. I was a personal trainer for a little bit, and then also got into bodybuilding. So when I was about 16 or 17, I dated a girl who was into physical fitness. She was in a couple magazines, and she said, you know, you put on muscle really easy. You should think about bodybuilding. And of course, you know, as a kid, you buy the muscular development magazines, the Muscle and Fitness.
Absolutely.
Looking up to those guys.
Yeah.
But you don't think you're ever going to compete. And then she showed me this gym powerhouse of Bev Francis Powerhouse.
Right here?
Right here. Yep.
Oh, wow.
And then I met a bunch of people there, a bunch of pro bodybuilders, and I kind of got bitten by the bodybuilding bug. and competed when I was 19. I went to win the Long Island Championships and the Atlantic State Championships in the team division, team bodybuilding. And then after that, I switched over to kickboxing, started doing that instead of bodybuilding. All this time, I'm working for my father doing homeowners insurance restoration.
So wait, you won all of these competitions. How many people were in there? Just like step back for a second, because that's like a huge thing that you kind of just like
just glanced over.
Yeah, just glanced over. Like, to train for championship takes how many hours, and then to go to the competition and keep your together and then win.
So I was a kid. Now we're talking about backing up. I was a kid who was never in first place at sports. So not because I couldn't, but because I never put in the effort to. I was not big into team sports. I like doing things on my own. When things go wrong, I want to be the only one accountable, and that's speaking on business. We'll go into that later. That's something that I've had to shed and kind of find a balance with. But back then when I found bodybuilding, it was like, oh, here's this thing that only I have control over. So if I screw up, I can't blame anybody but myself. And I liked that. I liked the discipline in that. So once I was getting into fitness and everything, I was also a chubbier kid growing up. So once I started getting into nutrition and fitness and I started seeing the pounds come off, I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool.
Wow. It makes you motivated to do the next step and to keep going.
Exactly. You find motivation in your progress. So I just started building and cultivating this discipline from doing that. And that, lent itself great to bodybuilding, because all bodybuilding is discipline. So, you had mentioned how hard it is to kind of keep yourself in track and keep your ish together. For me, it wasn't even that, because I was surrounded, like I said, I was at Powerhouse. I was surrounded by so many pro bodybuilders.
that is where all the winners are training.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, a couple of doors down from us, all the winners are training there.
For those that don't know, the owner of Powerhouse, his name is Steve Weinberger. He actually runs the IFBB, which is the International Federation of Bodybuilding. So it's the pro bodybuilding circuit. So what happens is, anytime there's a show coming up, people fly out to this gym to get his critique and to have him give him, because he's also a judge too. So
he's still there?
Oh yeah, he's there almost every day when he's not traveling.
I might have to change gyms.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding.
It's a great resource. So you're surrounded by all these people that are the best in what you're trying to do. You don't really think about, like, it's not an option to not be disciplined. Because you see all these people around you that
they're walking out, they're all in really great shape.
Great shape, they're eating their chicken and broccoli at the front desk, and so it's hard to not be disciplined when you're in that environment all the time.
That's very cool. So when you won, though, what was that feeling like?
I'll give you a little story which makes it even sweeter. So at the Long Island show, there was this kid in the teen class that came in with this big sponsorship. He was sponsored by this company called Species Nutrition. They had cameras on him, and he was shooting this documentary. Keep in mind, this is a 19-year-old kid. And long story short, it's up to just me and him. Everybody else had been eliminated. Him and I are the only two standing. And I went to go give him a handshake and say, good luck, whatever happens, you're a great competitor. And he kind of just went.
Just kidding.
No, I wasn't doing kickboxing yet, so that comes a little later.
Yes, I want to hear about that.
But
go ahead.
He kind of looks at me and he's like, luck, I won't need any luck. I'm going to win this. And then what they do, exactly. So what happens is they announce the second place winner before the first, and his name got called next. And I just saw the blood drain from his face as he went blue and his jaw dropped. And he went on stage and then
never.
And then it set in that I had just won, So not only was it like immediate karma against this kid that I felt vindicated on, but it was also like, wow, this is the first time in my life that I got first place for something because of my own discipline and because of everything that I put together. So it was really a defining moment moving forward.
That's such a great message right there for in both respects, in that kid's attitude and your determination. People like that always wind up falling.
Yep.
You know, and that's the fun thing about when we watch movies about these characters when they fall. It's like, yeah, we're always rooting for that underdog. So you're kind of like, we're the underdogs.
So I did a lot of studying of successful people, whether it be athletes, actors, business people, politicians, whatever. And one thing that I noticed among all of them is the ones that, like that kid, that have a big ego, they may do really well. They may do things that nobody's ever done before, but they burn out quicker. It's like burning the candle at both ends. You know, they burn so bright that that candle only has so much wax. The people that are humble, it may take them longer to get to that point, but once they're there, they stay there. So that's something that I've tried to apply to my own world is, you know, I don't want to be the one that sparks and then fizzles out. I want to be the one that stays, that's steadfast.
Wow, that is so well said. I'm so impressed. That's amazing. I want to, before we get into a few finance questions, I really want to hear about your fighting and MMA and how that came about and where we are today.
So coming from bodybuilding, I won my shows. And I kind of had this feeling of, all right, what happens now? You know, like, I think to some extent, it almost would have been better if I lost my first show, because then I would have had the drive to then go and do the second one and win the second one. But because I won the first one,
it's kind of like surreal.
It's surreal.
And when you win, and it's like,
and you have these expectations of what's going to happen after, and then when those things don't happen, you're kind of left with this void. So that's kind of what I felt. And then on top of that, I had this feeling of, all right, I look like I'm in great shape, but my body's so stiff. Everything hurts. I'm always, you know, walking around like this.
Is that what brought you to the dance studio?
So in part, yes. So I started getting more into physical therapy and really not just learning how to build big, strong muscles, but how to develop power under motion, power in motion, flexibility, athleticism. And I started going down that route. And then Sarah, remember Sarah?
Yes.
So she was doing deep tissue massages for me, and she's the one that brought me in here. And she brought me over to start doing this.
Oh, that's right.
Right. Yep. With her, was it her sister or cousin?
You've been here a while.
Yeah. It's been a long time. So at the same time, I'm also saying, okay, I want to do something more that uses my body in an athletic sense. But again, I don't love team sports. I like being accountable for myself. So at Powerhouse, they have Derek Panza's MMA studio. Now, for those of you that don't know, Derek Panza is a 3-time world championship kickboxer. So if you're going to learn from anybody, what better guy?
Of course. Oh my goodness.
So I started taking lessons with him, and at the time I was also doing security. So for me, it wasn't, I want to do this competitively. This is just, I want to learn how to defend myself better. You know, I'm a big guy.
Okay.
I could always get away with just manhandling somebody, but God forbid the one day comes where a guy actually knows how to fight.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, if he's my size, I don't have an advantage over him. So I was learning from him. I was coming here. The two were kind of playing hand in hand because the footwork I learned here is great for kickboxing. And it kind of gave me this unconventional style that was kind of hard for other guys to read because I was moving in angles and ways that were unorthodox, you know, because in boxing, it's really hard to not just move in a straight line. You have to really think about, okay, instead of moving front and back, I'm going to move front, side, 45-degree angle, 90-degree angle. So
dancers would be good fighters.
They would be fantastic fighters. Yeah, absolutely. Actually,
they are very aggressive. So I know we make it look not aggressive.
So
competition is
well, that's another thing. It's the competitiveness in ballroom dancing.
Yeah, it's stiff.
And there's a great boxer by the name of Vasily Lomachenko that his father basically had this plan from when he was a child that he was going to be a championship boxer before his son was even born. So what happened is he got him into boxing very young, and then around 11 or 12 years old, he takes him out of boxing and puts him into soccer and ballroom dancing.
Oh, wow.
Fast forward to present day, he's now a world champion. So, and he attributes all of that, and what he's known for is his slick footwork. He's called the matrix fighter because nobody can hit him because he's moving in all these angles that their brains can't even comprehend.
I love that.
Yeah, it is. It was really cool.
So boxers out there, come and join us on the
absolutely. Yeah, your sparring will improve tenfold. So
So did you actually have a fight? I mean, did you book a fight?
So I booked a fight, and at the same time, coronavirus.
Oh, this is the one
So I booked a
that
fight.
kept getting postponed.
Kept getting postponed. You know, it would get postponed 2 weeks. 2 weeks would come up. Hey, it's getting postponed another 2 weeks. Another 2
Oh
weeks.
yeah, I remember that.
At the time, I was in a place in my life where I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I doing? Where do I want to go with my life? I wanted to get out of New York. I had plans to move to San Diego, California, but my friends that were living there had moved home once coronavirus started happening. So that plan went out the window. So I moved to Texas because my mother lives down there. My friend Reggie was just moving down there at the time, down in Dallas. Right before I moved to Texas, I herniated 3 discs in my back during sparring. I came down weird.
I was
on the
just
side.
about to ask, is it dangerous?
Yes.
So you just answered my question.
It's not patty cake. But this was a compounded injury from all the years of heavy lifting with bodybuilding. And now all of a sudden my body's getting looser, but it's still stiff from all the scar tissue you build up bodybuilding. And now I'm trying to move it in these extremely athletic ways.
Yeah.
And because there's all that stiffness and rigidity, it wasn't allowing my muscles, my body to be as flexible as it should be in those positions. So what happened was I came to the side, and whatever muscle was tight that was holding onto my vertebrae just pulled those vertebrae, and the disc slipped. So I had a slipped herniated disc, 3 of them down my lumbar spine. And that took a while to get over.
Did you hang upside down?
Yeah, that was one of the best things.
Yeah, hanging upside down, that really.
Physical therapy, for those of you who doubt physical therapy, you have to. You have
absolutely. It's amazing because they will eventually go back into place, usually.
Yeah, so it's really
100%. We are not doctors here.
Well,
so
a lot of it is muscular issues because it's, you know, if you're somebody that sits at a desk all day and you lean to the side like this, what you're doing is you're shortening the right side of your back and you're lengthening the left side. Now the left side is getting pulled out. It's losing strength. The right side is gaining strength because it's constantly contracted. And now you're creating this imbalance that's pulling your vertebrae to one side.
Absolutely. So, sitting at a computer all day long is horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
So moved down to Dallas. I'm going to physical therapy. Back's getting better. And when I get down to Dallas, I get hooked up with another MMA gym down there through Derek.
Okay.
And originally I was just going to do kickboxing. When I get down there, I have a talk with this guy. And he basically says, listen, we don't have a lot of kickboxing. We either have straight boxing or MMA. There's not a big kickboxing scene down in Dallas. So I was like, all right, why don't we just do MMA? Because I had taken some jiu-jitsu classes. For those of you that don't know, jiu-jitsu is just grappling on the ground. There's no takedowns, but I didn't have any wrestling experience. So I had to start taking wrestling classes, which is the actual art of takedowns, getting the guy from standing to the ground. So I was in a wrestling practice one day, and, you know, I'm the new guy, so I'm trying to prove myself, and I take this kid down, and he gets annoyed. So then we go in, right. We go in for the second round. We go, you know, at the beginning of every round, you touch hands and then go. I went to touch his hand, and he immediately shot without, you know, giving me the hand touch. And because I wasn't prepared, I stiffened up like a board, and I came down flat on my back, and I actually popped my rib out of the front. So now here I am with 3 herniated discs that I'm getting over. Now I have a dislocated rib. On top of that, I just torn ligaments in my ankle from jiu-jitsu because I was in an ankle lock. And at the time, my mindset was, you're going to fight how you practice. So I'm not tapping out in practice. And he ripped my ligaments. So all these things happen. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, I don't, you know, if I'm having this many injuries already, what's going to happen if I really get into competitive fighting?
Oh, yeah. You don't need to prove anything else.
So the fight ended up never happening.
Good. I'm glad.
There's still a part of me that wants to do maybe like an exhibition match or something, but I think the pro fighter is out of the cards for me at this point. So then at that time, while I was
But you have more, you have a new journey.
Correct.
You have a new journey. And that leads me to lots of finance questions. Tell us what about this company you are running?
So one door closes, another opens.
And this was incredible because I remember everything that you're saying leads you to where you are now.
Correct.
And the determination and the detail that you put behind it, it's just really impressive. And that's why I wanted to introduce you guys to John today, and your finance company. I'll let you go.
So I'm down in Dallas. I'm not doing the MMA fighting. This whole time I was working with my father. He has a restoration company on Long Island called Paul Davis. So basically, anytime anybody has a fire, flood, mold, or smoke damage, we'll come in, assess the situation, write an estimate, clean it up, do repairs also. We're full service, so we have a construction company as well. So I was writing estimates for him remotely to make money. At the same time, I had also started putting money in the stock market when I was about 16 years old. My grandfather was in the stock market. He made good money doing it, and it was something that I'd always been interested in. So I just started doing kind of my own research. I had a buddy at the time who had a day trading club, kind of like a little group, that I joined. And just to learn more about it, be with like-minded people, learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
And so through my research, I started getting really good at it. Now, granted, setting is important. This was during the Trump era market rally. During COVID, so we had the COVID crash, but then after that, it was like the craziest 12 to 16 months the stock market's ever seen, because not only did we recover to pre-COVID highs, we then doubled, and everything, companies with insane valuations were popping off of the board. All of these little companies that had no place lose it.
We're back.
So the government was printing money. There was excess money to go around. So people are literally just creating businesses every day. Stock market's going crazy. So it's a really easy time to trade, is my point, is that you could be blindfolded and throw a dart and you'd still hit a bullseye. Pretty much, for the most part. But it served as a good learning environment because, again, it was an easier time to trade. So it kind of eased me in. Now, the issue there is that you think you're Warren Buffett when you're making all this money really quick.
Yeah.
But even at that time, I knew that it wouldn't last forever, just because I had talked to my grandfather about market cycles, whatnot.
Awesome.
So in this group, I'm recording my trades. I'm putting my charts up of the stock market. There's something called technical analysis, which is basically analyzing trends on market charts and just using different indicators to kind of have a direction of where the market's going to go. So I'm studying all this. I'm talking to people in the group. I'm putting my ideas out there. And what I'm noticing happening is, instead of people in that group, they pay somebody for information, right? And instead of them going to the person that they're paying in this group, they're coming to me and asking me questions. And I'm kind of responding like, hey, I'm happy that you think I have the wherewithal to know this, but why aren't you asking the guy that you're paying $200 a month to teach you this?
Sure.
So long story short there, that company, it is found out that the guys running it are basically frauds. They're stealing somebody else's trade. They're pawning it off as their own, and they don't actually know what they're doing. So I separate and I say, you know what? I like the idea of this company. It's, a group where you pay a subscription. They give you access to information to learn how to day trade in the stock market. You have this community. Not only is it good for day trading, but it's also good for networking, because we have, lawyers, realtors, doctors, construction workers, union guys.
Nice.
Every kind of person is on there.
Wow.
So I start my own company with one of the business partners that split off from that group, because we actually had a mutual friend, my buddy Ian, who was selling initial public offerings at the time. So what that is they're selling shares in a company that's going to go public before it hits the public market.
Okay.
So, there's a whole bunch of
there's like a lot of rules surrounding that.
Right. There's a minimum investment that you have to have. You have to be an accredited investor. There's a whole bunch that goes into it. But he introduced me. We started a new group, and our group was focused on teaching people, because that was my biggest thing. Is I didn't want to be somebody where I forced the people that depend on my input. I wanted to teach this to people so that they can make their own decisions. And then the reasoning was that will also make the group better, because now we have a group of informed members who, instead of relying on one or two people, are all sharing great ideas. And now we're all building together. So it went really, really well. I think we did $20,000 or $30,000 worth of sales in the first month. Like, it just took off. And then we had a change in the president, and the market took a turn for the worse. That was around December of last year. And
do you think it's going to change in the future? I mean,
so
if you look at trends in the past, it usually does. So fingers crossed.
If you want to learn about the future, look to the past.
Yeah.
And what you realize is that just like the seasons, everything comes in cycles. So, you know, there's an adage that I really like. It says, weak men create hard times create strong men create easy times create weak men. And it's true.
Yeah.
Because if you look at what happened, and again, I'm going to call it the Trump market, we had very easy times. Money was being printed at the seams. You know, people, we saw these NFTs that were selling for millions of dollars.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, but what, so for those people that don't know, what is an NFT? Could anything be an NFT?
So an NFT, the best way that I can explain it is when you, let's say you're a sneaker collector and you buy a pair of sneakers that's a one of one and it comes with a certificate, or if you buy a Rolex, it comes with a certificate of authenticity. Essentially what the NFT is it's a digital certificate of authenticity. So if you make a piece of artwork that's an NFT, a digital artwork, what it does is it tracks where that artwork was created and then who buys it. So it's basically a ledger. It's a ledger of the changing of hands. And essentially, yes, anything could become an NFT. Anything that you can digitize can become an NFT. Now, the utility of it remains to be seen. I mean, when the technology first came out, everybody just used it as a pump and dump. So basically they would buy something for 15 cents, tell all their friends about it, build hype around it.
Sounds like one of those pyramid schemes.
It's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was.
Oh boy.
But there is actual utility behind it. So what some guys were doing was they're creating NFTs that if you held this NFT in what they call a cold wallet, which is essentially just any kind of data storage outside of a computer that's not connected to the internet, and let's say you go to a restaurant owned by this guy that created the NFT, now you have to have a certain code found within the NFT to get into the restaurant. So there is some utility. That's just a very, very basic example of how you can use these things. So I think eventually, right now, the NFT market died. The crypto market is dying.
Oh, that was another question, crypto.
And we'll get into that. I think there are utility for all these things, but what happens anytime there's what we call a disruptor, which is, you know, a technology or business that kind of changes the landscape, there's this frenzy of people, first of all, making a ton of money off of it because nobody really knows what it is, so you can sell it as anything, but then also people trying to figure out the utility behind it, how to use it.
Yeah.
So again, going back to cycles, this technology comes out, there's a big boom, and then after the big boom, there's a crash once the hype dies down, once everybody comes back to reality, and then after that crash, things even out and that technology is implemented. Same thing happened with the internet. When we had the 2000s bubble, the dot-com bubble, everybody was buying websites, buying. There was this huge bubble. It all crashed, but now look at the internet. Now we can't imagine living without the internet because it's become so ingrained in our daily life. So going back to the stock market, you asked me if things were going to get better. Yes, eventually things will get better. I hate to say it. I think they're going to get worse before they get better, but this isn't going to last forever. Again, it's just one of those things that, you know, it's an emotional cycle. There's greed at the top of the cycle and there's fear at the bottom, and then there's everything in between. So we already saw the greed. We saw these NFTs going for millions of dollars. We saw all these companies being built that shouldn't have been built because there's so much extra money being put out there. And now we're seeing the fear start to kick in, where now people are selling off the market. These companies that should have no place in the market.
I mean, what do I know? It's probably a mistake, though. Rather just wait it out. No?
What is?
Selling everything.
So
unless it's an NFT or crypto, which is like it might be obsolete.
This is where investing and day trading gets tricky. Now, for those of you that don't know, the difference between investing and day trading, you're buying low and selling high. That's the whole point. You don't care about projected profits. You don't. I mean, to an extent you do, but not with investing. When you're investing, you're
not even necessarily a believer in the company. You're just following
the trends.
An algorithm, I guess.
You're following the trends, exactly. When you're investing, you're parking your money in a company for, whatever your specified period of time is. But for most people, that's going to be 10, 20 years, maybe their whole life, in the belief of that company, in the belief of the board of directors, in the belief of that company's ethics, of the technology that they're creating, whatever they're producing. You are investing in that company. You're giving them your money so that they can then reinvest your money into their company, make the company better. So I'm sorry, what was the question that you asked that got me into that? I'm like,
no, you're great. You're great. Whether to really hold on to something or get rid of it. You were comparing a day trader to a long-term trader,
right?
And why one would be. It's interesting because a day trader. I have one version of it, and it's somebody that, like you said, just day trades and isn't invested in the company. But if you're not a day trader and a long-term trader, when do you actually let go of the stocks? Because we were talking about people fear, the fear taking over and them trying to get out. Should they just hold? Or is it, like you said, if it goes down low, will it finally hit bottom and come back up? Or will some companies just disappear?
So this gets into investment theory, and there's a lot of different theories out there of what you should do, when you should trim. My, I guess, opinion, because this is an opinion.
Yeah, just give us your opinion, and maybe we'll bring you back on for opinions in the future. That would be great, actually.
So,
but yeah, give us an overall.
When the layman thinks about an investment portfolio, they think, okay, I'm going to buy this company now. In 20 years, when they've become profitable, I'm going to sell my shares. I think about it a little bit differently. I think you should use your investment portfolio to borrow against, and you really shouldn't ever be selling positions unless one of the companies that you hold, you have a feeling is going under or hasn't been showing a good track record the past months. Maybe
you just need money.
Board of directors. Well, and that's the classic thinking is people sell when they need money. But again, my thinking is, instead of selling, because now what happens when you sell, you create a taxable event, capital gains, right? So now you're getting taxed on that.
Yeah.
Instead of selling, you borrow against your portfolio and pay back the interest rate. Now, you have to do some calculation on whether you're going to get taxed more or the interest rate that you borrow against your portfolio is going to be more, because there is a discrepancy there. But I'd rather never sell, because the thing is, stock market isn't going anywhere, right? So it's been around since the 1700s with the Dutch trading company. That's how the stock market was first invented.
I did not know that.
So it was invented. Okay. It was invented so that people could invest in these Dutch company trading ships, to go on these expeditions and come back. And it was highly speculative. But the whole thing was, again, you're putting money into the company so that that company can then generate a return. So when I think about investing, if I'm confident in a company, I don't ever want to sell out of that company. All I want to do is add more to that company. So when I think about it, that's why I'm saying I would rather borrow against than sell, because when we have a market crash, every company goes down. Doesn't matter how good they are. But the stock market price doesn't necessarily have anything to do with how good the company is. That's where people get confused. Yeah. People see a low price and they say, okay, something's fishing here. Maybe this company isn't good. That's not necessarily true. Maybe on the onset of a company, if it comes out really cheap, then yeah. But once a company like Apple or Google or Microsoft, Tesla has been around for a while and it becomes a household name, chances are it's not going anywhere. Gotcha. So I would rather hold through those times. Yeah. And this is where we get into the theory of when to sell, when to buy. Ideally, you want to sell, if you're taking the classic approach, you want to sell when the market's good and buy when the market's bad. Yeah. Problem is everybody waits until the market gets bad to sell. And that's what creates the fear.
I think that fear, yeah.
And then that fear causes the sell-off, because one person gets afraid, then 2 people get afraid, then 4 people get afraid, then 8 people get afraid.
We've seen a lot of fear in the last few years in the world. So you see how people follow and just jump before they think. So
exactly.
That's
so ideally you want to buy, and it's always easier in hindsight, but if you bought a company that when you bought it, it was $50, and now the shares are at $300-400, you could probably afford to trim a little bit. You could probably afford to sell some. I mean,
Yeah.
that's 6 times the original valuation. That's humongous. But again, I would implore everybody to kind of look into brokerage-based loans and borrowing money using your investment portfolio as collateral, the same way that you would get equity in a house.
Interesting. All right. Well, don't give everything away today because we want to bring you back. So thank you so much for being
Yes,
here. And tell
absolutely.
everybody the name of your company.
So
If they want to reach you, if you want to. If you
our,
want new
our,
people. Or
our
you just-
company was originally called Monarch Trading.
That's right. Monarch Trading. Okay.
We actually merged with another company called Whalestream. But if you want to find us, you can go to www.monarch, monarch.trade, TRADE.
Let me put, can I edit
Can you
this?
add a hyperlink?
I can.
So it's
Go.
www.monarch.trade. Now, one word of caution, the prices on the website are not our current prices. The prices have actually gone down since we've merged. We are in the middle of building a joint website with the new company that we merged with, but you can go to our website right now to find out information on us, who our employees are, what our kind of vision is for the company. And then we have an email at the bottom. Email us if you're interested in joining or want to find out more. Again, do not subscribe to the website because the prices that are up there are not the current prices. You're going to be paying more if you do that. So email us directly.
All right. And what's your email? Just shout it out to them.
I believe it's admin@monarch.trade, but just double check on the bottom of the website.
Gotcha. Okay. So monarchtrade.com. Check it out.
Monarch,
all right.
Monarch.trade, not .com.
Monarch. Oh, just
Monarch.
as I typed it,
typed
www.monarch.trade. No
Yes,
.com.
ma'am. No
Not
.com.
everything has a .com.
We're past the .com era. We're moving on here, folks.
We are. Oh, no, not even my website is .com. Mine's .net,
Mhm.
dancewithus.net.
Mhm.
Anyway, thank you so much, John, for joining us today. And we would love to have you back to give us more tips.
Absolutely. Pleasure being here.